Hey, I'm Scott Doucet, and for my applied movement mechanics class, I'm going to talk about different movements the knee, hip, lumbar, shoulder girdle, and glenohumeral joints can make. So just like surveying the posture, we will start at the most inferior joint and work our way up. So the knee, a trochleogligamus type joint, rotates internally on the transverse plane and externally. It only does this movement when the leg is flexed 30 degrees or more. On the sagittal plane, we have flexion, and we have an extension. Proximal to the knee, we have the hip. The hip is an anarthrodial joint type. So for the transverse plane, we have internal rotation. It's like that, internal rotation. And then we have external rotation, like that. On the sagittal plane, we have hip flexion, and we have hip extension. Frontal plane, we see abduction, followed by adduction. Bringing it back in. Okay. Moving on up to the lumbar spine, it's also an arthrodial joint type. On the sagittal plane, we have flexion, and we have extension. So the frontal plane, it has flexion, lateral flexion to both sides. And for the transverse plane, we have a unilateral rotation, which is like this. So onto the shoulder girdle, or the sternoclavicular. It's an arthrodial joint type. Movements for this joint all run on the frontal plane. So we have elevation, we have depression, and then abduction has the scapula moving away from the spine, and then adduction is the opposite. So upward rotation is like this, and then downward rotation is like that. We'll end with the glenohumeral joint, which is an anarthrodial joint type that has lots of movements. On the sagittal plane, we have flexion, followed by extension. Frontal plane, we have abduction, followed by adduction. On transverse plane, there's external rotation and internal rotation. And then we have horizontal abduction, followed by horizontal adduction. Okay, and that'll do her. So thanks for your time. Hope you enjoyed the presentation.